Then the chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and they schemed to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the festival, they said, or there may be a riot among the people. Now, while Jesus was in Bethany, at the home of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, and she poured it on his head while he was at the table. When all the disciples saw this, they were indignant. "Why this waste?" they asked. "This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." Now, aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I tell you, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then one of the 12, named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests.
Is he one of the disciples?
He's one of the 12 disciples. And he asked the chief priests, "And what are you willing to give me if I deliver Jesus over to you?" And so they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. And from then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over.
So Judas, I knew there was something fishy about Judas Iscariot. He looked fishy.
Looks mischievous even too, doesn't he?
So it makes sense of him.
Now, on the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" And Jesus replied to them, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my appointed time is near. I am going to celebrate the Passover with my disciples at your house.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. Now when evening came, Jesus was at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." They were all very sad and began to say to him one after the other, "Surely you don't mean me, Lord." And Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." And then Judas, the one who was to betray him, said, "Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi." And Jesus answered, "You have said so." And while they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body." And then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink from this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." Do you guys remember doing that ever? Communion, yes, when we break bread. Yes.
Except if you don't drink wine.
Now Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Now Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then Jesus and his disciples went to Gethsemane, but Judas wasn't with them.
Why wasn't he?
He was going to betray Jesus.
Did anyone notice?
Yes, they noticed him leave. They did not know what he was up to, except Jesus.
He knows he betrayed him? He's going to?
Now, when Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And you know what they did?
They fell asleep.
They fell asleep. Now he took Peter, James, and John a little further in with him and said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." But do you know what they did?
They fell asleep.
They fell asleep too.
Which one was Peter?
We'll say that was Peter. And going a little further, he knelt down and he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples, and he found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Then he went away a second time, and he prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." And he came back, and he found them sleeping yet again. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to his disciples, and he said, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go, because here comes my betrayer." So they all got up. And guess who came?
Jesus Iscariot went to temple guards.
Yes.
Which one's Judas?
Now Judas had arranged a signal. He said, "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." So he went immediately to Jesus, and he said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and he kissed him. And Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend." And then the men stepped forward, they seized Jesus, and they arrested him. And with that, one of Jesus' companions drew his sword and smote one of the servants of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him. "Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me." And then all the disciples deserted him, and they fled. Now those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. And the chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward, and they said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" And the high priest said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men have bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. And the high priest said to him, I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God. You have said so, Jesus replied. But I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. The high priest tore his clothes and said, He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look now, you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? He is worthy of death, they answered. Now Peter was out in the courtyard warming his hands, and a servant girl came up to him, and she said, You also were with Jesus of Galilee. But he denied it before everybody, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Then he moved a little ways away from her. And while he was there, another servant girl saw him and came up to him and said, This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied it with an oath. I don't know the man. And after a little while, some of the others who were standing there went up to him and said, Surely you're one of them. Your accent gives you away. And then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, I don't know the man. And immediately a rooster crowed. And then Peter remembered the word that Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And then he went outside and he wept bitterly.
Wasn't he already outside?
He was in the courtyard. He went out of the courtyard.
What's the courtyard?
That is like the front yard of the house of the high priest, but it was all paved over in stones, perhaps. And so it was the courtyard out in front of his house. All right. Now we have to pause and have a week's worth of suspense and wait until we find out what happens next.